Hi, friends, and welcome to the Autoimmune Mom Podcast. I'm your host, Allie. This is a space for moms navigating life with autoimmune disease, the exhaustion, the guilt, the strength it takes to show up, and the hope that we can still live full, meaningful lives even when our bodies make things harder. Each week, we'll have honest conversations with moms living with autoimmune disease, share practical support, and remind each other we are not alone in this journey. Before we dive in, if this podcast resonates with you, it would mean so much to me if you would follow or subscribe wherever you're listening, leave a review, and share this episode with another mom who needs it. You can also connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at the Autoimmune Mom Podcast, where I share encouragement, resources, updates about new episodes. If you're looking for extra support, you can download my free Autoimmune Mom Survival Guide through the link in my bio. Let's get into today's episode. Hi, everybody. I have a different type of episode lined up for today. And it's actually a little bit of an audible situation. If you follow me on social, I made a quick reference to this. One of the things that I've learned in the short amount of time that I've been doing this is something that should have been obvious to me from the get-go. 16 years of living with rheumatoid arthritis, and I should have expected this, and I didn't even think about it. So here it goes. I have been lining up interviews of different moms and professionals, mostly moms at this point, and I did have several lined up. And this is not a one person situation here. This has happened a couple times in the 1 month that I've been doing this. So I don't want, if you're listening and you're one of these people, please know that I am more than happy that you took the time to do what's right for you. So audience is like, what are you talking about here? I had several people have to cancel on me for medical reasons. They're just not feeling well. And that is actually like the emails or the messages that I get, they feel terrible. I hope that I haven't messed up your plans. I don't want, if you have something scheduled and I committed to this and I want to do it. And these are all the types of things that I'm getting, but I just don't have the bandwidth to handle it right now. Nothing is more relatable to me. And the last thing I would ever want is for somebody to come on this show and not feel like they were able to convey the message that they wanted to convey because they weren't feeling well. So to me, it's like, take the time. If it's a year from now and you want to come back, I am going to be here. But I actually have so much respect for people who can do that because it's not an easy thing, especially as mothers living with these diseases. As mothers, we're expected to do everything, whether you have a disease or not, right? You're expected to show up. And as you grow older and have more maturity, you realize your word is almost everything. So you stick by, you try to do what you say you're going to do. And you do that for your children, and you do that for your husbands and your spouses and your friends and, everybody that means anything to you. But there are times when we just cannot do that. And that's a tricky situation. This is not the life that we thought we'd be living. And it's tricky to manage the expectations that we put on ourselves, and then the expectations that society puts on us, and the expectations that our family and friends put on us. Showing up looks very different post-autoimmune than it does pre-autoimmune. I used to do a lot more. I mean, I've always had autoimmune. When my kids were younger, I really was in a much worse spot than I am right now. But I did try to show up. My mother went to every single thing at the school. Every single thing. She volunteered. She taught us CCD. My father coached us in sports and refereed, and they were and I'm one of 6. My youngest sister passed away, but when she was only an infant. So one of 5 that they had to juggle all this through, and we were all like 8 or 9 years apart. So there was a lot of us doing a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, and they always showed up. So that's the framework that I was coming from. And I tried that when my kids were little. And it wasn't because I felt like I had to, but I wanted to be a good mom, and I wanted to be involved in their every single day lives. And I wanted to know who I was sending them to every day. So I wanted to be in that building. And I wanted to check it all out. But there was a distinct moment. I used to volunteer in my daughter's kindergarten class when we lived in Massachusetts. And that was that was hard. And the things that presented it to be hard for me were the chairs were so little and the table were so small and there's a lot of sitting on the floor. And at that time, my knees were so bad and my wrists were so bad. If I got down on the floor, which I'd usually have to use a wall to slide down, and I'm now like, I'm 47 now, and this is like my daughter's in the 8th grade. So you do the math. I was in my 30s. Um, I was sliding down the wall to get up and to get down, which wasn't the hard part. The hard part was getting back up. I just could not put any pressure on my wrists and my knees were killing me. So it started to become this mental warfare of, okay, so how I can't squat, I can't sit down in those chairs, they're too low, I can't get on the floor. And it was all of these negative thoughts were going through my head. And then when we moved to South Carolina, volunteering in the kids' school was a lot different. You weren't working with the children as much. You were doing the little errands for the teachers. So it would be, can you go to the lamination room, which is on the other side, like the east wing of this huge building. There's 8 first grade classrooms in this, and it was kindergarten through 3rd grade. So there was like 7 or 8 different classrooms for each of these grades. There's a million kids, and you have to walk all the way from here to there, and the parking lot's a mile away. And it's my feet were killing me, my knees were killing me. So now I'm doing all of this walking, and that's not how I did. I was limping and I would be holding onto the wall a little bit. Like my meds were just not working. My dietary restrictions were not working. I was very stressed out. I was miserable. And this is not how I expected to show up for my kids. I didn't want, I didn't, I think one thing that a lot of us can relate to, especially if we are in physical pain, is the looks that we get from people when they can see our pain, and which is probably what drives us home and to stay away from people. So I was starting to get looks. Are you okay? And it comes from a beautiful place. Like they're genuinely worried and they want to help you. But just for me, seeing that look on someone else's face was like, this is not how I want to show up for my kids. This isn't, this is not it. So I had to just decide that I wasn't going to be the mother that worked the cafeteria or did the photocopying, or I'm not necessarily going to know my kids' teachers as the way I thought I would. I'm not going to be that involved. I literally can't do it. And that's okay. I'm not a bad mother because I'm doing it a little bit different than how I thought I did it, or how my mother did it, or how my neighbor does it, or how that woman down the street who has a different autoimmune disease does it. And none of it matters. I show up the way that I can in the moment that I'm in. Do what you can in the season you're in. I follow someone who says that all the time. And it's just like, I want a plaster. I want a t-shirt that says that. Um, so learning how to show up, but learning what showing up means, it's different pre and post. That was just one example I gave. There's a million others. Like I used to tell my husband all the time, he'd say, let's go out to dinner on Friday. Let's have a date night. And I'd say, yes. And then Friday would come and I would say, I can't do it. And he would get disappointed and be miserable and be unhappy. Not mad at me, but just he worked hard all week and he wants to do something different and he wants to go out. And I cannot get it together on a Friday night to go out. We have a soccer game tonight and I'm going to take it easy this afternoon because it's been a busy week getting back and doing traveling and working and everything, so that when I get back from the soccer game at 9:30 and then have to go pick up my other daughter at 10 o'clock, he'll more than likely do it. But it's going to be a longer night for us on a Friday, which I don't like to do. So all that to say, and what I have learned is I don't say yes to these things. He still asks from time to time, not as much as he used to, and I think we're in a good position now where it's like, why don't we, lay low on Friday, and then on Saturday, depending on what the kids are doing, maybe we sneak out and do an appetizer somewhere and a cocktail at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we're all home and in bed by 8:30 and we can get to church in the morning. Like that's kind of, or I'm just a better off person for an afternoon date. And luckily he has a job where sometimes he can sneak out on a Friday afternoon and we can make that work too. So it's showing up in the way that we can without overtaxing ourselves and learning that. I mean, this has taken me a very long time. And in the process of learning that, there's a lot of grief that goes along because you do feel guilty that is it normal that I don't want to go out to dinner with my husband on a Friday night? I have guilt about that. And then he's upset and then we have guilt. And, you know, just working through all of that things. And I did have guilt about initially about not being the photocopy mom or working the karaoke cantina or whatever, whatever it is at the school that I can't do. No, I was a big basketball player. And so people are always saying, why don't you coach your kids? They don't even play basketball anymore. But back then, and it's like, well, because I can't even catch a basketball. Like my hands hurt so bad. I can't run down the court. My knees are not good or whatever it is. And having to explain that can get to be a lot. So there's a grieving period. And there is a time where I did just push through everything, and that just made things worse. So I just have to be okay with living the life that my body is allowing me to live today. And that can change tomorrow. It can get better, it can get worse. And I'm not one to sit around and be fearful of what tomorrow can bring because that robs us of the pleasures of today and the joys of today. And tomorrow isn't promised to anybody. So what's the point of fear in it? Am I going to be in a wheelchair in 6 months? Well, who knows what 6 months can bring? And if stressing yourself out for the next 6 months over all of that is pretty ridiculous, in my opinion. Of course, it's something that we all do, and I'm not perfect at it, and I do have some fears that creep in from time to time. But I just try to live through today, for my family, show up for them, and worry about what my body decides to do tomorrow. Tomorrow, easier said than done. I know. So the reality of not showing up, what does that look like? Canceling your plans, missing certain milestones or events. When we decided to move here to Charleston, I had to make a huge sacrifice and a huge decision to miss most of the milestones that my family goes through now. I've got my siblings all live in Massachusetts. All the grandkids live there. So we miss, I mentioned before, we're Irish Catholics. So first communions and sporting events, my nieces and plays. I've got cousins with kids that are doing all kinds of cool things. I miss my sister-in-law throws amazing Mother's Day brunches and Thanksgiving parties and all these things that, that is a sacrifice that we have made that we cannot show up for these things because we live 1,000 miles away. Why do we live 1,000 miles away? Because the winter was killing me up there, and the winter is way too long. It's never ending, and it starts in October and it ends, if you're lucky, in May, probably June, before it's like really nice weather. It's probably why I didn't feel great when we moved here because there was a lot of stress behind what we were giving up and a lot of disappointment and a lot of just general negativity that surrounded all of that. But I had to get past it because in the long run, living here is easier on my body and it's easier on my family. And it's been a really good change for us, thankfully. And we had to let a lot of people down when we made that decision. And it wasn't easy and it was mentally draining and blah, 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 blah. But we're all in a better place now for it. And what my kids are learning is you have to do what's best for you, but there are consequences to every decision you make that kind of rebound outside of the decision that you're making. So say for going out to dinner, with friends, if we say yes and then I have to cancel, but those friends don't care. They get it. They are sympathetic. They understand. I have never been a person who questioned my job as a mother. I knew I was going to be a good mother before I was a mother. And I know I've made mistakes. I'm not saying that, but I know I'm a good mother. And it's probably the one thing I'm most confident about in my life is being a mother. So how I show up, is it different than what I thought? Absolutely. Like my life is so different that of course it's different. And I just have to be okay with it. I'm raising them different than I thought I would be raising them. But there's a lot of pros to the way that I'm raising them as opposed to the way that I thought I would raise them. My eyes have been opened to things that didn't exist. I was very much go, 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 working out like a crazy person, doing all the things. It just was a no pain, no gain type of thing. And I can't do that anymore. And I have to take the time to listen to my body. And my kids are learning that now, which isn't something that I learned. I just learned push through, push through, push through. But that's not necessarily the best way. There are times where we need to push through, but that's not necessarily the best, healthiest, most productive way to live life. And so sometimes the voice in my head tells me I'm being lazy. And there probably are times when I am being lazy, but that little voice that creeps in that's, you're being lazy, you're being lazy. And then I have to look back on my lived experiences and say, well, I just really can't do that. I can't call myself lazy because my body is screaming at me in a million different ways. So, rewriting the negative talk that's in your head is part of the journey to get to a healthier place mentally. And I believe that these autoimmune diseases are mind, body, and soul. The mind part is the trickiest part. Teaching your brain how to think differently. That's not easy. The older you get, the harder it is, in my opinion. I think the number one thing that I have learned is how to communicate these things to other people. And it's not about woe is me or feel bad for me or look at me or whatever. I'm just kind of honest with people and just tell them flat out, especially my husband. Like, I want to say yes, but I just don't know. I haven't been feeling great. I'm not really sure where I will be on X date. I wanna say yes, but I don't want you to head count me in just in case. Or I'll say a lot of times if someone invites me to their house, I really want to try to make it. Don't count on us for food. We'll eat before we come so that if it's an issue, then, if it's a barbecue or something like that. If it's a sit down dinner, that's a little different. But who does that anymore? I don't know anyone. So I just say, don't count on us for food. If we can make it, uh, we'll eat before we come or we'll bring something, and of course I always bring something. So it's just managing expectations on the other side. And sometimes I'll say I might sneak in, but I'm just not feeling well, so I might only be there for half an hour, and I'm just gonna tell people that I've got another appointment or something. You don't want to broadcast it to the whole party that you don't feel good. So tell the hostess or the host, and then you know a little bending of the truth here and there. It, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, so I think if you're young mother and you're newly diagnosed, or you're not a young mother and you're newly diagnosed, and you're a grandmother and you're newly diagnosed, and you're trying to navigate this new life, I think you just need to redefine what it means to be a good mother, because the mother that you were before is not going to be the mother you are going forward. And that doesn't mean you're a bad mother. It just means you have to do it a little differently. And we can all learn, and your kids can learn how to pivot and how to understand their body and all of that by your example. And I think that there's something beautiful in that. And, you know, kids are little sponges and they pick up on things. And it's better to be honest with them and open with them and just tell them than it is to try to hide it and bury it and keep going and burning yourself out. And then I don't know about you, but when I did that, I just end up screaming at everybody like a psychopath and miserable and throwing myself in the shower and crying for an hour. Like, that's not good. It's actually a lot healthier and better to just sit everybody down and say, I am not feeling well. I need a break. I need somebody to help me with X, Y, and Z. And everybody's going to be happier and it's all going to be better. The problem I have is they try to help with X, Y, and Z and they don't do it the right way. And then I have to redo it myself. So yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm still figuring it all out. But another thing I will touch on briefly is that I do think that having, I said, mind, body, and soul, your spirit, having a relationship with God and being thankful for what He has given you and asking Him to help you to pivot this and turn it into not something that isn't as negative. And what are we learning here? And how are we growing? And how are we getting closer to Him? And how is this all connected? Because it all is mind, body, and soul. It's all connected. And pray for healing. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you keep praying, because there's a reason for all of this. And there's a reason. And I think that was a real struggle for me at one point. It was like, why? The why me? That's very, I mean, that's an honest question. The days when you can't pick your baby up or brush your hair. It's not the motherhood that I dreamt of, for sure. So there was a lot of why me's. And I got to the point where I had to stop asking that, because I found, like, at one point, why me? And then I turn the corner and someone's kid is suffering of cancer. Okay, I'll take this. Why me? And someone's husband died in a car accident. Okay, I'll take this. Why me? And then, some tragic thing happens in the news and okay, rheumatoid arthritis isn't that bad. So there's always somebody worse off out there. So the why me thing is like, it's an easy trap to fall into, but you start looking around, there's a lot of people that are a lot worse off than you and I. And that's the truth. It's not a truth you want to hear when you're in a flare, but when you're stuck in that why me trap. And I've been there. And it's dark and lonely place to be. So I encourage you to reach out to other moms who are suffering. Reach out to me. You can send me a DM. My email is the autoimmunemompodcast@gmail.com if that's how you want to reach out. If you are in a dark and lonely place, you're not alone. We've all been there. And just, you got to take the first step and reach out and talk to somebody. And that's how you show up today. And if that's all you do, then you have just made one huge step to getting it to being a better mother for yourself, for your children, for your family, for everybody. So some days, those are your steps. You reach out and ask for help because this can be a dark and depressing space, as I've said. And if that's all you accomplish, you're still a good mom. You took the first step to get happier and to be a better mom if that's what you accomplished today. Your story can change somebody else's life. So that's part of my mission here is I am in a better place physically, mentally, spiritually, all of that. And I feel it's time for me to share that and connect other people with people who need that. Cause that was a very lonely place for me when my kids were little. I've talked about that on here before that, I had kids that were 1 and 2 and there was 100 inches of snow on the ground and you didn't leave your house because if you did, your kids would get lost in the snow and, driving was hazardous and blah, 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 blah. So I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, I didn't have any connection. No one I knew was suffering the way that I was suffering. And my family was wonderful, great, and they would help me out and they took the kids when I had doctor's appointments and did all that kind of stuff. So it's not that I was not heard or seen by my family, my siblings, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. That's not the case at all. But it's still isolating because they just don't know what they don't know, and you're grateful they don't know it because it isn't good. None of it is good. So take the step to reach out. If you need some resources and you want to talk to somebody, but you don't want to be on my podcast, I'm your person for that. Maybe I can connect you with somebody that I've spoken to who's in a very similar situation that you have. And I do find that most women want to help other women through this motherhood thing. But the lack of connection that we have, especially to people who are living with illness, makes it difficult. We don't lead with, I have rheumatoid arthritis. I went into work the other day and I've been posting this on my social media. And one of the guys that works in the office was like, I had no idea. And I said, yeah, well, it's not anything. He's like, what, you don't wear a t-shirt about it? I said, no, it's not really anything I talk about, especially now because I don't, I'm walking fine and my inflammation is super low right now, which is good. So it's an invisible disease, as we've said. So all that to say, today, my message is show up the way you can. And if that is literally making your kids a lunch and getting them off in the bus, and that is it, then job well done, mom. You're a good mom. Because there's a lot of moms out there who have the ability to do more and don't. They don't even, these kids are in miserable places, doing miserable things. And you might not be the mom you thought you were going to be, but God gave you those kids for a reason, and no one can be their mother like you can. So showing up, however that looks for you today, is plenty. It's enough, and your kids love you. And tomorrow is tomorrow. Don't worry about that until you get there. All right, that's all I got for you today. I hope someone finds some value in this. If you would like to be a part of my podcast, please let me know. I'd love to interview you so I don't do this one-on-one thing. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. And yeah. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week. Before we wrap up today's episode, I just want to say thank you for being here and spending this time with me. If this conversation resonated with you, it would mean so much to me if you'd follow or subscribe to the Autoimmune Mom podcast wherever you're listening, and take a minute to leave a review. It really helps other moms who are navigating autoimmune disease find this space. And if you know of another mom who might need to hear this message, please share the episode with her. You can also connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at the Autoimmune Mom Podcast, where I share encouragement, resources, and updates on new episodes. And don't forget, you can download my free Autoimmune Mom Survival Guide using the link in my bio on my socials. Remember, you're not alone in this journey, and I'll see you next week at the Autoimmune Mom Podcast. Take care of yourself, Mama. Your health matters too.